Thank you. Good morning. This is the August 15th, 2024 meeting of the Southern Region Board of Review. This hearing is being held via WebEx video conference at the Perry B. Dorier Jr. State Office Building, 250 Veterans Memorial Highway, Conference Room 4A9A, Hauppauge, New York, 11788. The time is now 9:13 and this hearing is officially open. The members of the board today are Andrew Hames, Mr. Richard Pavone on WebEx, Lara Buzlayman, and myself, Robert Peterson, Chairman. From the Department of State is Courtney Nation and CJ Ojoku. We will now hear the scheduled petitions. When you speak, please address the board and give your name, title, and legal address so that our court reporter can have all the information requested. We may have to stop from time to time to consult with our technical staff. In making comments to the board, please provide a descriptive narrative and matters referring to your exhibits to enable the court reporter to enter these into the record. First hearing is in the matter of petition number 2023-0428. The petitioner is Lori Wiltshire for Hamid and Shanaz Mutbar. Is it Mutabar?
Mutabar.
Yeah, we have a typo. Thank you. Okay, this petition pertains to a detached one-family dwelling. The dwelling is 2 stories of wood frame type 5B construction, approximately 3,680 square feet in total gross area. The dwelling is located at 28 Far Pond Road, Town of Southampton, County of Suffolk, State of New York. The petitioner has requested relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R322.1.5, which requires that the lowest floor shall be the lowest floor of the lowest enclosed area, including basement and excluding any unfinished flood-resistant enclosures that is usable solely for vehicle parking, building access, or limited storage, provided that such enclosure is not built so as to render the building or structure in violation of this section. The petitioner wishes to have the lowest floor used as a mechanical room. And 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R322.2.1, titled Elevation Requirements, which for flood hazard areas not subject to high velocity wave action, requires in relevant part that buildings and structures in flood hazard areas, including flood hazard areas designated as coastal A zones, shall have the lowest floors elevated to or above the base flood elevation plus 2 feet, or the design flood elevation determined in accordance with sections R322.1.4 through R322.1.4.1, whichever is higher. The petitioner wishes to have the lowest floor and a flood hazard area below the requisite design flood elevation. And lastly, 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R408.7, titled Flood Resistance, which requires that for buildings located in flood hazard areas as established in Table R301.21, walls enclosing the underfloor space shall be provided with flood openings in accordance with Section R322.2.2. The petitioner wishes to maintain an exterior wall enclosing underfloor space without flood openings. Okay, Ms. Wiltshire, you have the floor.
Thank you. It's Lori Wiltshire for Land Planning Services, representing the Mutabars. They obtained wetlands permits and a building permit from the town of Southampton, as well as permits from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the Suffolk County Health Department to tear down an existing residence and to build a new house. And this is between the years of 2018 and 2020. The plans that were submitted to the building department showed the mechanicals in the basement and were approved. The house was built and passed all required inspections until the final inspection for the certificate of occupancy, where it was discovered that part of the house was in a flood zone. The mechanicals were in the basement, and the basement is not permitted in a flood zone. Although the basement is not in Although the mechanicals are not in the flood zone, parts of the house are, a part of the house or part of the basement is in the AE elevation 9. When this is the case, the whole house needs to meet the FEMA required elevation. This is not the case, as this house was built with a basement that houses the mechanical equipment with all permits in place. There is no way to explain how this happened because both the architect and the builder passed away during COVID. And there is nowhere to move mechanical equipment. You can't move it upstairs in the house because there's wetlands constraints and they can't go up any further because of the number of story regulations, and they can't build out because of wetland constraints. Therefore, we're seeking relief in the form of a variance to allow the basement and the mechanical equipment to remain as they were built. Again, the mechanical equipment is not in the flood zone. Both the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the Chief Building Inspector for Southampton Town have stated that they will support a variance. We have written statements from both of them in support of the variance. In an email, we asked Brad Winskowski, Environmental Program Specialist in Floodplain Management at the DEC. We said, Brad, so we apply for the variance to the town and you support that? And his reply was simply the word correct. Chief Building Inspector Sean McDermott completed a required form as part of this application, where he answered the following questions accordingly. Do you support the petitioner's request for a variance? Yes. Do you support processing this request as a routine variance? Yes. Mr. McDermott was quite sincere when he told me how badly he felt for this family because it was no fault of their own that landed them in this situation. I have submitted a booklet which includes all of these exhibits. I'm not going to go through them all. I'm sure you've seen them all. The engineer's report, the highway determination, the architectural drawings, the FEMA information. But what you did not have until yesterday was the variance that was granted by the town of Southampton. And I will say this, I'm going to read part of it to you. This is their determination. With respect to the applicable enumerated considerations set forth in Southampton Town Code, Chapter 169, the board finds that there is no danger that materials will be swept onto other lands to injury of others because the applicants have demonstrated that the basement portion of the dwelling that does not comply with respect to elevation has appropriate flood vents allowing water to pass through in the event of a flood. The board finds that there is no danger to life and property due to flooding or erosion damage, as aforementioned, noting that while the dwelling and its contents are not likely to be susceptible to flood damage, the applicants are aware of this and accept this as a possibility, particularly with respect to any items stored in the basement. There's no habitable space in the basement. The board notes that the applicants find the maintenance of the existing dwelling important and necessary since the premises was purchased in 1990 and considerable time and monies were invested to construct the dwelling pursuant to permits reviewed and issued by multiple agencies, including the town of Southampton. This board finds that there are no alternative locations to store the mechanicals since the premises is constrained by wetlands and retroactive compliance with the regulations is cost prohibitive. We did submit estimates from a house lifting company and someone who builds up foundations, and it was a significant amount of money, close to $300,000. Likewise, a review of the survey reveals that the dwelling is as far landward as possible considering the location of the sanitary system. This board finds that the existing residential use compatible with the comprehensive plan and with the R15 zoning district and consistent with the development of the neighborhood, with many houses developed fully located in the AE elevation 9 flood zone, where only a portion of this dwelling is also located in the X flood zone. This board finds that access to the premises in times of flooding remains viable and that the granting of the variance will not impact any costs to local government, nor the expected heights, velocity, duration, rate of rise, or sediment transport of floodwaters and the effects of wave action, if applicable, expected at the site. The one condition that they did put in their determination was that the foam insulation that was in the flood vents be removed. I have confirmed with my clients that that has been removed. And if you have any questions about the flood vents themselves, the engineer is actually on the web.
Just for the record, I want to clear some things up. The basement in question, this 300 square foot basement where the mechanical is, that's in Zone X.
Correct.
Okay, is it 300? I don't know where I got it.
It was somewhere around.
I don't know where I got that number
I
from.
don't know where you got that number either.
Yeah,
But yes,
I do that on
the
occasion.
mechanicals are in Zone X.
Okay, the full basement where the mechanicals are completely in Zone X. The flood vents that were just conditioned that you cited on the zoning variance is in the crawl space portion in the AE9 zone, correct?
Let's let David Rhodes address that.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. Yeah, I just want to clarify that because that's germane to the conversation that's going to follow. So,
Absolutely.
Well, David, could you elaborate on that? Or the flood, where are the flood vents?
If you have a copy of my engineering report, if you look at the second page in the exhibit, if you look on the second page, we took the floor plan. We showed which part was in the AE zone, and we showed the location of all the flood vents. Do you have the engineering report?
Yeah, there's a little diagram with blue, green and yellow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can share my screen if you
No,
want me.
that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, so it's basically what we did is we took the footprint of the house. We showed where the flood zone line was. We showed where the flood vents were, and then all the AE zones, the X, 2% and the X, and the AE.
Mr.
Are there-
Rhodes had to, excuse me, I'm sorry. Mr. Rhodes had to introduce himself.
Sorry, David Rhodes with TF Engineering, Sag Harbor, 17 Main Street, Sag Harbor.
Are there any flood vents in that basement portion?
None in the basement portion. There's only flood vents in the AE zone. There's 5 flood vents for a total of I will close that out. Give me 1 sec. Yeah, so there's a total flood vents of 5. There's 5 vents. They're 16 inches by 12 inches, and it's 960 square inches, where 136 inches is required with the 1 inch per square foot.
Okay.
I was focusing on the basement part.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get.
There's none in the basement.
Yeah, I'm looking at some photos. Maybe you had some just regular vents, like ventilation vents? Like
Yeah, it does look like the vents in there in the photo.
closed up, I guess?
Yeah, I can't respond to that right now.
Okay, well, in the exhibits, there's one that's labeled crawl space, then there's one that's labeled mechanical room. This second exhibit on the photo shows 3 rectangular penetrations through the concrete wall. So I was curious what that was and if they're going to remain closed.
I'm trying to see,
Yeah,
what photos are you looking at?
This one?
Oh, in the back, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that had the foam insulation in them, they're not closed up? That was removed.
So those,
Basement, not the crawl space.
yeah, those are not typical flood vents. They're just ventilation openings.
Yeah, I'm focused on the basement right now where the mechanical equipment is, and those look like they were vents. And I just wanted to make sure we were clear on what they are and what they're going to be, and they're going to remain closed.
David, you can't see these pictures.
No, and we evaluated the flood vents that were in the AE zone. We didn't evaluate the outside, the other ones, the other vents.
Exhibit F.
They were there.
Can you see that? Can you see that?
I really can't.
Oh, it's right. Should be right on your monitor there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to know what those were.
But I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, but they'd be willing to close those up if that's an issue, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the issue would be under the zoning determination, they were required to be open, not closed.
The flood vents.
I think that's in the other part.
Okay. That was definitely the flood vents in the other part?
Yeah, so there's 5 flood vents that are in the AE zone that have a crawl space, which all meet the bulletin 7.2.
And they had
Go
been
ahead.
covered with insulation and they are now uncovered? Is that?
Correct. There was some insulation shoved in there when we did our inspection. We requested that they remove the insulation so that water can freely transfer through, and it was removed.
Okay,
And there's no intercommunication between the crawl space of the main house and this basement where the mechanical equipment is, right? It's all just solid concrete wall?
Yes,
There's no opening that floodwaters can get into the basement from the crawl space. Correct?
correct.
Okay.
What about this?
where is the electrical?
We can close those up. We can,
But isn't this,
We're
they're gonna
We're
close
talking about the electrical
Where-
panel?
Electrical panel, yes.
That I don't know the answer to,
is
unfortunately.
that what that is?
I mean, that's
I know.
critical.
Are the motor bars on this call? I do not see them. They could answer that question, but I cannot.
Yeah, we don't have the design professionals with us, unfortunately, but these are kind of the questions we're going to ask. I'm going to ask about the mechanical equipment itself. Are they gas powered? What type of fuel source are they? Are they electric? Stuff like that. The elevation of the equipment from the floor, I think we had that at 3.9. The floor slab's 2.5. The BFE is 9 feet, Mr. Courtney, right?
According to the elevations.
Okay,
9, so the first floor is at 11.4,
okay.
which is half a foot above the
Mhm.
DFE.
So are we gonna need to submit some additional information to you? Because I don't know about gas.
I'm looking at the photo now of the equipment, and I see a gas line.
Okay,
So I could be wrong, and it looks like there's a condensing boiler, a wall-mounted condensing boiler, direct vents in the back of the space there. And it looks like there's a crawl space opening and access into the crawl space. So all my questions regarding, the potential of gas equipment getting flooded out in a storm event. I'm assuming that's for hot water, and then this is a forced hot air system with all the ductwork going on. That would be my assumption. I could be wrong. You see over here, there's a crawl space access to the crawl space. And then there's the condensing boiler on the wall. Could either be hydronic or it could be domestic. And then we got this stuff, which is
Yeah.
all ductwork.
This is an access?
That's an opening, yeah.
Okay.
see a central vacuum system.
Yeah, we're not worried about that one. Well, I'm not personally,
Okay.
you know. All right, so that's my questions I had about the equipment. Electrical panels, Mr. Ames had asked about. Do we have any knowledge of any mechanical equipment in the attic?
I do not believe there's mechanical equipment in there.
Because it's a very nicely designed house and there's a tall roof and it looks like you could have some equipment there to feed the second floor. I don't understand if this equipment feeds just the first floor or is it for the whole house? I think I read somewhere that this is not their primary residence.
It's not their primary residence.
Okay. We do consider potential future owners that it could be their primary residence, but it's good to know for the record that this is a second home. No CO is presently issued on the house, I believe.
That's correct. We cannot get a CO until we obtain this variance,
Okay,
and we already have the town variance.
got it.
I'm not seeing in the foundation plans any opening between the. basement
Yeah,
and the
no, the
crawl
photo
space.
shows an opening. So if there was a path to approval here, I think there's going to be some conditions.
But then it looks like these plans were not done by a authorized architectural
Well,
firm.
I think the hardship with the applicants is
Oh, yeah.
probably those were prepared for the hearing. And the design professionals, unless we had
Were
permit
these,
plans,
were these the permit plans that
That's where
were?
the permit plans.
They were the permit. plans.
Absolutely.
were they signed and sealed?
No,
Then they can't be the permit plans.
and the firm that's on here, Sosa Design, Inc., is not authorized to practice architecture.
Oh, you looked that up?
Yeah.
Pretty amazing.
So they are the designers, and the architect of record is the one who passed away.
Mhm.
Well, the designers should not have been designing this house. I don't see the architect of records name on the plans.
Well, I can obtain those from the building department. Say,
Okay,
Yeah, that's always a problem.
yeah. So I have very little faith in anything shown on these plans.
Especially if the photos conflict with what's demonstrated on the plan.
True.
I mean, as far as my concerns and questions, I think they've been at minimum vocalized.
I'd like to expand on my response. I just looked through the photos when we went out and did a site visit. And there is a small opening between the crawl space and the basement area. And there are vents in the basement area that when we were there were plugged up with an insulation of some type. So they were not active when we were there, but they may be now. I'm not sure. So,
So if the crawl space floods, the basement floods.
yes.
Do you know, David, if that opening is the one access that's required by code for the crawl space? If we mandate that it gets closed up, is that going to create a violation where you have to create that opening somewhere else?
I do not know that. That's outside my area of expertise.
Okay. You understand our line of questioning? We're trying to
Yeah.
see if, okay.
Yep, 100%. Yeah.
Mr. Rich, you have anything you want to weigh in on?
Why can't they raise it above the elevation?
Say again?
Yeah.
Why, excuse me, why can't they raise this above the elevation?
Above the DFE?
Oh,
The
just put it
house?
above, outside, attach it to the side of the house.
Talking about the equipment.
Equipment,
Yeah. Yeah, so if it's economic hardship, which is what you're claiming,
oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So-
an estimate from, it's in your packet.
not to lift the whole house. Yeah, you said 300,000. Yeah, I get that. That's a heavy lift.
Yes.
No pun intended. The,
Yes, you did it.
yeah, the mechanical equipment, like if you had to relocate that, let's say to the attic or above the DFE up on the first floor, you have domestic hot water and mechanical stuff like that. What would that cost to get this out of the non-compliant?
Well, there's some reason, and I don't recall, I was not at the site meeting, but the chief building inspector met at the site with the owners, and they determined there was nowhere to put this mechanical equipment
Mhm.
upstairs. Whether it can be raised from the grade it's at is another question.
So in case of your argument, I think it'd be important to have what that number is so we can understand, all right, it's going to be 30, 40,000 to bring this equipment up to a compliant location. It would be good for the board to know what that is.
Mhm.
I'm inclined to discuss this and try and come back with a decision
Yeah.
unless you want to make a motion. Okay. I guess my only other question for safety is there any kind of smoke or CO2 detectors down in the basement that you're aware of?
No,
You don't?
I'm not aware of it. Doesn't mean that there aren't. We don't have any pictures of the ceiling.
CO2 would be.
I think I see one, I'm being a little forensic, but I see one on the ceiling. You see that
Yes, I saw it.
right there? Okay,
Because I saw it.
yeah. I mean, that would be a condition of approval to comply with code and all other aspects of the code.
CO2 and smoke in the basement?
In accordance with code, yes. I mean, there could be some enhanced requirements, heat to rise detectors, stuff like that. But we'll-
So, as I said, they passed every inspection except the final one with the town.
Mhm.
So I would have to assume those were in place.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
No.
Mr. Rich? Laurie, you have any other questions?
I don't have.
no more questions.
No more questions. All right.
I have one.
Yes.
Laurie, are you an attorney?
I am not. I'm a land planner,
Okay.
and I did the permits for this house and
All right. That's better than an attorney. All right, we're gonna deliberate over this and come back with a decision, so.
Oh, so you don't need additional information from me? You're just, maybe just do conditions and stuff.
And while they're deliberating.
Yeah,
If you can find out, if you contact the owners, find out where the electrical panel is, I'd like to know that.
Okay, I will try to do that.
okay, everybody out. Thank you. Deliberation, Rich.
Yeah.
We are going off the record.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, off the record, thank you. Someone who wanted to speak on behalf of the application, Mr. Sean McDermott. Are you here, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you please give us your name and title and let us know what you have to say?
My name is Sean McDermott, Chief Building Inspector for the town of Southampton, and I have with me is David Kanji, Principal Building Inspector for the town of Southampton.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Okay, so the electrical panel is in that full basement.
Yeah.
That's one thing. I'm sorry, I didn't know the protocol. I figured we had to stay on mute unless we were called.
Yeah, I was unaware that you were from the municipality, so I probably should have prompted you, but we got you now. Do you know how high off the floor that panel is approximately?
That panel approximately is about 4 feet off the cement floor.
Are you familiar with, I mean, do you know if that panel feeds the whole house or is it a sub panel?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so it's the main electrical panel for the
It's the
dwelling.
main electrical panel.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us about?
So there was an opening between the crawl space and the basement. We would want to see that sealed up and then work on some alternate way. There are no mechanicals in the crawl space. Miscellaneous, a plumbing pipe. I don't know if there's ductwork in that crawl space. But I go off of an elevation certificate and they have the square footage of the crawl space is 2266 square feet. The net area of flood openings, which are engineered openings, is 1427. We may ask that they add a couple more vents to equalize the square footage in the crawl space.
Other than that opening between the basement and the crawl space, is there any other access to the crawl space?
No, there's not.
So if we have them seal that opening, then they would have to
Yeah.
create some other access.
Are we?
Yeah, well, if we don't seal that opening, if that crawl space floods,
Yeah.
it's gonna go right into the basement.
Not if the crawl space floods, but when the
When.
crawl space
Yes.
floods.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm not positive, but looking at this photograph, Sean, this might be the alternate opening to the crawl space.
Now,
I can't.
That
you
is,
can't see
that is the opening.
So just for the record, we were there in 2022, so maybe something has been done in the interim. This elevation certificate is from 2022 as well. So,
Tremendous, thank you. Anything else?
that's it. We want to work with the homeowners to get them their CO.
Okay, so, there'll be a requirement by the building department to make sure that that code required access is reestablished if we ask for them to close that intercommunicating access completely.
100%.
What is it, 6 square feet, Courtney?
No,
No?
it's less than that.
It's less than that?
Yeah, the big question,
18 by 24 or something like that? Okay,
the big question in my mind is whether we want to have them move that electrical panel,
yeah.
yes.
and I think we do.
Did you want to ask about the attic?
Yeah, is there ample room?
Well,
Mr. McDermott, are you familiar with any equipment up in the attic?
Well, I would imagine there's an air handler, up in the attic, for heating and air conditioning. I would imagine, I don't think that was was that straight up hot air system? Yeah, I'd have to, but I was only there once.
Yeah.
Or about.
Are you familiar with any gas permits on the property? Was I correct with the analysis of the photo?
I believe that is gas, and they, it's on their plumbing application.
Is it propane or is it natural gas?
That's natural over there.
Okay. So there's no tanks on the property.
No.
Very helpful. Thank you. Anything else we want to ask them while we have them?
I'm okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, we're going to go talk this out.
Thank you.
Thank you. The record. Can you hear us, Rich?
Yes.
We could see you. Okay. To vote, we need to see you.
It says weekly.
Okay, back on the record. With respect to petition number 2023-0428, Mr. and Mrs. Mutabar. The petitioner has requested relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1220, 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R322.1.5, 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R322.2.1, and 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R408.7. The board makes the following findings. Number one, based on the date of the building permit issuance, the applicable code in this matter may be the 2015 IRC with modifications as contained in the 2017 Uniform Code Supplement. Variance requests and citations of the 2020 Residential Code of New York State in this determination are deemed as applicable to corresponding provisions in the 2015 IRC as modified by the 2017 Uniform Code Supplement. Number two, the subject dwelling appears to have been completed in 2019 and is awaiting occupancy certifications. Number three, the subject dwelling is partly located in a flood hazard area zone AE9 and partly located in zone X. A zone X flood hazard designation suggests that no flood mitigating flood construction techniques need to be employed. Number four, dwellings located in different flood hazard zones must, however, be designed in accordance with code provisions that correspond to the greatest hazard. Number five, the subject dwelling has a small basement that is under 300 square feet in area and is used for the building's mechanical and electrical equipment. The remainder of the dwelling appears to conform to the flood provisions of the Uniform Code. Number six, the floor of the small basement room is below the design flood elevation. An elevation certificate submitted with this application indicates that the basement floor is located at elevation 2.5 NAVD 88, and the equipment in the basement is located on a pedestal at elevation 3.9 feet NAVD 88. Number seven, the small basement room has a concrete slab floor and is separate from the remainder of the building by poured concrete walls, except for an access opening into the main crawl space. This concrete tub-like basement structure is wholly located inside the area designated as flood hazard zone X in a survey of the premises as revised on February 10th, 2023 by a licensed surveyor. Number eight, a licensed design professional has prepared a report concluding that 5 flood vents installed in the dwelling's exterior foundation walls are adequate to provide equalization and flow through of flood water in the portion of the dwelling's underfloor space located outside of the basement room. The CEO in testimony felt that the total area of flood vents calculated may have been inaccurate. Number 9, the CEO and a New York State DEC representative, along with the town zoning board, all support the granting of a variance in this matter. So with respect to 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R322.1.5, 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R322.2.1, and 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R408.7. The board finds strict compliance with the provisions to the Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code would entail practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship and would create an excessive and unreasonable economic burden and would also be physically or legally impractical. and the granting of this variance will not substantially adversely affect Uniform's codes provisions for health, safety, and security. Wherefore, it is determined that the application for a variance from the provisions of 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R322.1.5, 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R322.2.1, and 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section R408.7, be and is hereby proposed to be granted with the following conditions. Condition number 1, that the 300 square foot basement space shall be for mechanical equipment only. Number 2, that the main electrical panel that resides in the basement shall be relocated to above the design flood elevation. Number 3, that the existing opening between the crawl space and the basement shall be closed up and sealed watertight. Number 4, that any existing flood or ventilation openings in the basement mechanical room shall be adequately closed and plugged to prevent water infiltration. Any ventilation or combustion air required for the basement space shall be obtained from above the design flood elevation. A professional's engineer certification shall be required to demonstrate compliance. 5, that the enclosed areas in the dwelling which are below the design flood elevation are located outside of the mechanic room shall have flood openings designed in accordance with section R322.2.2.1 of the 2020 Residential Code of New York State. The plan area of this enclosed space shall be the basis of such design. And lastly, number 6, that the dwelling shall conform to all other aspects to the applicable requirements of the Uniform Code. I need a motion to approve with these conditions.
Andy, so
Can I get a second? Laura, second?
Laura, second.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Furthermore, it should be noted that the decision of this board is limited to the specific building and application before it as contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. So there you go. We approved it with those 6 conditions.
Thank you. And I did not understand 5, sorry.
Number 5, with regard to the flood openings, I think there was some concern about the math on how those openings were calculated.
Yeah, the building official, the code official indicated that he didn't agree with the calculation that was done.
You're probably gonna have to add more flood vents in
Yeah,
that
you
crawl
have
space area.
Yeah,
Okay. So flood openings calculation needs to be redone. Got it. Thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
Nice job.
I'm sure
Thank
the
you.
bars are very happy.
Great. Thank you. Okay. I think we have, Mr. Chris, where's your card? Oh, Jack, why am I calling you Chris? You've been called worse? Yeah,
Thanks again.
thank you.
thank you. Let's take a 2-minute, I'm gonna hit the men's room.
Okay. And who might want to speak on this application? We have Josh Smith. We have anybody else here?
Good morning, Joshua Smith, Suffolk County Gabreski Airport. I'm the airport manager at the airport. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Anybody else?
Yep. Got Chris Walsick. I'm with Yonkers Industries. Will be the project manager and owner's rep for the project.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Raymond Muxo, Suffolk County Department of Public Works, building permit, representing the building permit group.
Thanks for joining us today. Anybody else?
Ms. Afreen Wright from the County Attorney's Office.
Good morning. And anybody else?
You're on mute. Hi, Paige Pullins. I'm with Signature Aviation, construction manager, representing the owner.
Okay, thanks for joining us today. Anybody else? Okay, we're gonna get started. Back on the record. You back? Good to go? Okay. The second hearing is in the matter of petition number 2024-0382. The petitioner is Mr. Jack Poole, PE, for Signature Flight Support LLC. This petition pertains to a new one-story building of type 2 non-combustible construction, mixed group S1 and group B, moderate hazard storage and business occupancy, approximately 73,000 square feet in total gross floor area. The building is located at 1842 North Perimeter Road, West Hampton Beach, Town of Southampton, County of Suffolk, State of New York. The petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, the 2020 Building Code of New York State, Section 412.3.6, which states that aircraft hangars shall be provided with a fire suppression system designed in accordance with NFPA 409, based on the classification for the hangar given in Table 412.3.6. Excuse me. The petitioner wishes to construct a building that is to be used as an aircraft hangar with a fire suppression system that is not in accordance with the 2016 edition of NFPA 409. Okay, Jack, do you want to sit up and so we can see on the camera? Oh, you're already set up.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm set up.
Okay, great. Thank
What I'd
you.
like to do is hopefully share my screen and go to slide mode. So first off, I want a big thank you to Mr. Courtney Nation and Lola. They've done an outstanding job in helping me prepare for this. This is the first time and I want to thank the board for your time. I serve on many boards and I know what it takes to be prepared and be involved. So thank you for that cooperation. My name is Jack Poole, a licensed fire protection engineer in every state in the country, including New York. We practice worldwide. We are exclusively a fire protection engineering firm. I'm a graduate from University of Maryland with a degree in fire protection engineering. I've been very active in the development of NFPA 409. I've been involved in that technical committee, also serve on the NFPA Standards Council, which is a governing body over all of the NFPA codes and standards. But my involvement specifically to 409 started back in 1988, right after I graduated from college, and have been one of the active members. And one of the recent changes, the 2022 edition, which is the most current edition of the standard, there was lots of changes. And those changes were mainly driven by the industry. There was two key concerns that drove the changes to the 2022 edition of the standard. And those key changes were driven because the fire protection systems and hangars have had an enormous number of unwanted discharges. The systems activate, they dump the foam, they spray the aircraft. The AFFF foam is hazardous to the environment. It's the PFAS issue. Those of you that have probably been reading in the news about PFAS, and they're basically outlawing AFFF foam. The state of New York, if you have an existing foam system, you cannot even buy AFFF to replace it. It's a big deal. So the NFPA Technical Committee saw that as a challenge, the unwanted discharges that we're having. All of the DoD industry has basically outlawed it. There's a federal law that says you have to stop using foam. And the second challenge was we don't have flammable liquid or combustible liquid fires in hangars. So we've done a lot of research. The committee, even NFPA, commissioned a study to see how many unwanted discharges do we have compared to how many times where the foam system was really needed. And it was an 8-to-1. I mean, just millions of dollars being spent. So that was the rationale of why the technical committee changed to a risk-based process to determine the fire suppression needed for the hangar. So that's a little bit of a backstory. So what I've done is I've put together a little presentation here. So with respect to the codes, we are following the 2020 New York Fire Code and Building Code. Those documents have referenced the 2016 NFPA 13 and NFPA 409 and NFPA 72. We are not looking to change, and we want to follow those codes. Those are the adopted codes. And I know the documentation referenced the 2022. We only reference that because what we're trying to utilize, which is section 1.4 of the 2016 edition of 409, which allows new technology. So that's what we're ultimately trying to do. It may be the petition paperwork and the application almost makes it read like we want to use the 2022 edition. That's not the case. We're just using what's been codified, that little piece about allowing a risk assessment. And that's the new technology that we're looking to do. So that's what we're trying to do here. This slide here basically talks about the scope of NFPA 409 as referenced by the building code and the fire code. Everybody throws it to 409 of how to design the hangar from a fire protection and construction standpoint. This is the new technology section of that document. And it says nothing in the standard shall be intended to restrict new technology or alternate arrangements. And that's really what we're trying to do. So that's what we're proposing to utilize. This here is the section that talks about the fire risk assessment. And I'm just trying to convey that the most current edition of 409 has adopted this. I'm not trying to say we're going to follow 2022. The building is being designed to the 2016 edition. I know I feel like I'm a little redundant, but we had almost a 2-hour call yesterday with the county and making sure this is clear with them. So, and I'm sure you'll hear from them or Josh or somebody from the county. I mentioned earlier about the research projects. So the first project was done by NATA, National Aviation Transportation Agency, and the University of Maryland. And that study was to look primarily at Group 2 hangars. And maybe I need to stop there to explain the difference between Group 1 and Group 2. The Group 1 hangars are the great big hangars used by American, Delta, the government. And what distinguishes the different is the door height and the area. So this hangar that we're talking about today here in the appeal is accommodating Group 2 type of aircraft. The tail height of the largest aircraft that will be used in this hangar is like 28 feet, right at 28 feet. But due to the clearance and the safety requirements of a 2-foot distance, they have to make the door 30 feet because they don't want to have just a little bit of gap when they pull the plane in. So they've built the door a little taller. We have 2 bays in the hangar. Each one is about 31,000 square feet. However, there is no firewall separating bay 1 from bay 2. So essentially the hangar bay is 60,000 square feet, 62,000 and change. So we are by definition, we are a Group 1 hangar for 409. However, the planes that are typically going to be in there would typically be classified as a Group 2 type of hangar. But we are building a Group 1 aircraft hangar. So the first study was done primarily upon Group 2 hangars, which ranges all the way from little Cessnas to the corporate jets. Okay, that'll fit inside that door height. This second study, which Pool Fire Protection paid for, we retained University of Maryland to do additional research, trying to identify how many fires over the last 60 to 70 years has occurred in hangars compared to how many unwanted discharges. And one of the things that we did different from the first study was we went to the National Fire Incident Reporting System. So virtually every fire department in the country, when they run a fire call, they should submit that data into the NFIRS, National Fire Incident Reporting System. And it's all tracked by NFPA. So we have one big database that can use that data to understand, hey, what kind of fires we have? Are they airport fires? Are they residential fires? Where do they start? Why did they start? Are they arson? Are they flammable and combustible liquids? So we've done that research, and amazingly, the number of fires in hangars is very low, very low. And ones that involve flammable liquids in a fire, I think we found one in 60 years where we had a fuel spill and then we had a fire. And that fire was caught before the fire suppression system even went off. They controlled it with a fire extinguisher. So due to those two research projects, the National Fire Protection Research Foundation funded a $40,000 project to do additional research to take back to the technical committee to use as justification for the code changes. So Pool Fire Protection and University of Maryland teamed, we bid on that project and we won that project. So once again, we did additional research, went out to the Air Force, we contacted American, United, Delta, Southwest, all of the big FedEx, UPS, all of those big companies to try to get data from them, work with insurance companies to try to do the best we can to get data on fuel spills, unwanted foam system discharges, and fires in hangars. And so that's the research that ultimately drove these code changes. So back in 2020, end of 19, early 20, when we started to make the change from the 2016 edition, which would have been the 2020 edition, because it was on a 4-year cycle. That's when COVID hit. That's why it took all the way to 22 to get it published. During that process is when the industry came to the committee meeting and said, we're tired of having unwanted discharges causing millions of dollars of damage, millions of dollars of environmental cleanup, whether it's the foam getting into the waterways or just going to the sewer plant. The foam kills the bacteria that makes the sewer plant operate efficiently and creates problems. So what can we do? And do we really need foam? So the committee put together a task force, and that consisted of myself. I chaired that committee and other technical committee members. And what we concluded with is we will allow a risk assessment process, which is really real fire protection, in my opinion. You analyze the hazards and the risk present, and you design the fire suppression system commensurate with that hazard. And that's what this risk assessment is doing. That is the new technology that we're wanting to use as permitted by the 2016 edition of NFPA 409. And that's what we've done. That's the 38-page document that we have put together. And I might add, to start that risk assessment process, the very first thing we did is we had a meeting with all of the stakeholders. The first thing we did, we sent out a questionnaire to the owner, the contractor, the operator of the hangar to understand how they're going to use it. What are they doing? And it was like a 21-page questionnaire. They filled it out. We used that document at our kickoff meeting. At that kickoff meeting, we had representatives from Suffolk County, and we talked about the process. We talked about the changes being made to the 2022. And originally, when that report was written, because we were under the impression, partially our mistake, that we could use the 2022, but further into the evaluation, we concluded that no, you can't just use it. We need to follow what's been adopted by the state and the county, use that edition and use new technology. So it kind of a little confusing, we're not using 2022. We're only using the risk assessment piece, and we only reference that because it's now codified language is what we're trying to do. So we met and we put together this risk assessment document And as you can see on the very front page, it was submitted on August 3rd of 23. So we have been trying to get final approval. We had very little conversation. I think some of the confusion was who's really responsible or allowed to make these type of variance decisions. And this is why we've ended up here. And it wasn't until actually yesterday where we had a great conversation with the county to really walk through the report and talk about what really the intent was. There was lots of confusion about, are we really trying to use the 2022 or not? And there was talk about another code change in the 2022 that allows an ignitable liquid fluoride drainage system, which is basically something that lays on the floor. It's got square tubes that are about 1.5 or 2 inches square with holes in the top. So when the fuel spills, it goes in those little holes, runs down a track, and it just goes out. That is the method of fire extinguishment. No foam, no water. It gets in the holes and goes down a tube and the fire goes out. And there's lots of videos about how it works.
You're not proposing that, though.
No, we are not proposing that. That is in the 2022 edition. We're not proposing to do that.
Where does that liquid go when it goes?
It goes, follows each one of those trenches, gets in a header, goes to an underground tank, gets stored in a tank.
Stored.
The
What happens
challenge,
if that gets ignited?
huh?
What happens if that gets ignited?
Well, it's gonna be in a tank and it's gonna be above the LEL, so it wouldn't
What
ignite.
is that?
It's kind of like storing, huh?
What's LE?
CLEO.
Lower and upper flammability limits. So when you have a flammable liquid, it gives off vapors. Well, if you got it in a real confined areas and the vapors are greater than the oxygen concentration, it won't ignite. And if it's too high of oxygen content and not enough vapors, it won't ignite. So there's a flammable range of the amount of vapors and air that it takes to have ignition for a flammable to light. So essentially, when it gets in those tubes, it becomes too rich of vapors above the upper flammability limit, and it won't ignite. And that's why it goes out. The only airport aviation that I'm aware that has installed it in a hangar is the government. The Navy has installed, I think, 3 of these systems. They're like 3 times the cost of a high expansion or a foam system. And they are having maintenance issues because the little holes get clogged with debris and it doesn't let the liquid flow in. And it's super maintenance intensive. So they're not using it. And that's why we don't want to use it. I don't know that it's hardly ever going to be used because of the maintenance issues and the challenges with the system. So some of the drivers of how to do the research, what drove the risk assessment is, like I said, up here on the slide, the unwanted foam discharges, the environmental impact of the PFAS, and basically our goal of why I'm here today is we want to eliminate the use of foam in this hangar and do a water-only system. If the county feels we need additional fire detection, like maybe some flame detectors or some additional features, still allowing us to use water only, we're willing to entertain that. But the key goal is to eliminate the foam and use a water-only system. So, like I said, this is approved per the 2022 edition. This comes straight out of the 2022, talks about the risk assessment, the following factors that we have to address, which is what my report is based upon. We've addressed all of these items. This is additional stuff that talks about how to do the risk assessment process. And then there are 21 items that's required that we follow when we do a risk assessment process, which is driven and documented in that 2022 edition. And that came from the Society of Fire Protection Engineers, our professional engineering society, of how to do a risk assessment. We follow that guide, analyze the hazards, we look at the risk, we look at the consequences, we look at the frequencies, we do a true risk matrix, which I have a slide that talks about that. So, but one of the key things that's different from this hangar, from almost every other hangar around, it is only used for storage. It is basically a weather shelter for these high dollar jets, for probably some celebrities that uses that airport, to keep it inside so it doesn't get damaged from weather. They are not doing maintenance. So no maintenance. So this hangar is kind of like a parking garage for airplanes. And you take your normal parking garage downtown that's got 200 or 500 cars in it. We don't put a foam system in that parking garage just because we have cars that have lots of fuel in it. So we're following that same concept. And that concept was also discussed in the NFPA 409 committee, technical committee level. And as you see here, this is for group 2 hangars. So the code clearly says if you are only doing storage for a group 2 hangar, water only is good enough, and you're not doing any fuel transfer. And basically you can even do some maintenance. You just can't do this high risk maintenance considered as hazardous operations for group 2 hangars. And therefore you only need sprinklers. You don't have to do foam. And that has also been another recent change in the 2022 edition. But we're not a group 2 hangar. We're a group 1 hangar. So we followed the risk assessment process. Here's those 21 items. This is the first 11 here and the next 10 here on this page. Our report addresses every one of these items. This is the risk-based assessment matrix that you would typically follow when you do a risk assessment. And we followed that concept. So once again, a little bit about the hangar. Here's a picture of the land. That's the clearing that Anthony talked about here before we really got started. It's a group 1 hangar. It's about 75,000 square foot building. It's for FBO terminal and offices. The building value, approximately $18 million. This is a typical layout. So these are our 2 hangar bays. This line is not a wall. It's just to show a division, showing one bay and another bay, pull one airplane in one side, one airplane in the other side. We do have a little office / terminal area where people would show up before they get on their plane. There will be no maintenance activity, no fueling, no refueling. And an important concept on the fueling aspect, when the planes fly in, they do not refill them until they fly out, because they only put enough fuel on the aircraft to get them where they're going. Therefore, if we have one of these smaller jets that's only flying down to Baltimore, they're not going to fill it with 40,000 pounds of fuel because it's extra weight that they got to carry. So the aircraft that will be stored in the hangar will not be full. From what I understand from FBO operators and even the big boys, Delta, American, those guys, when the aircraft is on the ground and when they land, they want it to have less than 25% of the capacity of fuel in it, because they don't want the extra weight. So that gives you a feel that we want like less than a quarter of a tank of fuel in it. And that's what's going to be stored in the aircraft that are in the hangar bay. Like I said, 2 bays, each one of them 31,000 feet. We have a sprinkler room and an electrical room, 600 square feet. We have some office area, about 2,100 square feet. The terminal area is about 5,600 square feet. The door height is 30 feet. And the limitation for a group 2 hangar is 28. So we're 2 feet above the limit to be a group 2 hangar. Now the peak of the roof is about 50 feet. So here's the criteria for a group 1 hangar: 28-foot door, 40,000 square foot area, and we are over the 28-foot height. So that, and we're over the 40,000. So that throws us into the group 1 hangar category. By occupancy classification, we're an ordinary hazard, S1 storage of airplane occupancy. The terminal and the office is a group B occupancy, all driven by the allowable height and area of 75 feet. We're under that. We're unlimited area of building because of our occupancy type. Like I said, 50 foot is our maximum height of the roof, and 75,000 square feet is where we're at on height wise. We're not doing any of these hazardous activities that's defined by 409 in the hangar because we're not doing any maintenance. It's storage only. The aircraft that we're going to have is a Global 7500. As you can see, it's kind of a major corporate jet here. It's got upwards of 77,000 gallons of fuel is what it'll hold, which is a lot of fuel. And the value of this aircraft is about 62 million new. The other one is the Gulfstream G650. It holds about 7,100 gallons of fuel. It's about 65 million is the value of it. So point is, we've evaluated and looked at the capacity of the fuel. We're going to have less than 20 occupants in the building. So it's not going to be highly occupied, and most of that's going to be in the terminal and the office area. They're not going to be standing around in the hangar bay. The only people that's really going to be in the hangar bay are the people that come in to pull the plane out or put the plane away, because there's no maintenance activities to get done. We are just a short distance, 1.5 miles from the fire department. So pretty quick response. We would anticipate less than 5 minutes response time from the local fire department to respond to the incident. So kind of in summary here, a couple slides. Hangar building is insured by Factory Mutual. So we talked and included the insurance company. Aircraft is insured by the individual owners. So the building insured by Factory Mutual through Signature Aviation, and the individual aircraft is insured by the owner of the aircraft. The offices and the terminal are separated from the hangar bay as required by NFPA 409. The hangar bay will have draft curtains as required by 409. The hangar is constructed with a foam system, and an unwanted discharge would put the hangar out of service. So why don't we want foam? Because it major impact, environmental damage to the equipment. Adjacent hangars are available to mitigate interruption, puts the aircraft out of service. The hangar does have floor drains and storage tanks and an oil water separator. So there is floor drains in the hangar for any water or any of that, which is required by 409 as well. No fixed electrical equipment in the hangar, no portable appliances in the hangar, no portable electrical like space heaters or drills or none of that, because we're not doing maintenance. No extension cord, we're storing aircraft. Smoking is not permitted. Got to be at least 25 feet from a building outside of the building for the airport criteria. And the airport manages all hangars and airport operations. All guests will be escorted. There's strict security and badging requirements to get into the facility. And the fire load and combustibles is pretty low. I mean, if we have a fire, it's going to be a shielded fire. It'll probably be inside the aircraft. And I don't know how it would start. Maybe some would start it in 5. But foam is not going to do any good with a fire inside the aircraft, nor are the overhead sprinklers for that matter of the fact. So no portable heaters, indoor gas radiant heaters, radiant heaters at the ceiling, as I understand is being planned. No cooking, no food warming inside the hangar bay. Lightning protection analysis per NFPA 780 was looked at. It's recommended, but not required. I understand there is a lightning protection system at the airport and that it is being inspected and tested. Talk about flammable combustible liquids. I don't anticipate any However, if there are some for like maybe there's a black mark on the floor from the tire turn-in, they might have some alcohol or something to take a rag and wipe it up. So pretty minor amount, but we did say, hey, is that a possibility of considering that? No major significant fire hazards. So, because we're storing the aircraft, I mean, our fire risk is pretty low. We've looked at a bunch of different fire scenarios that was discussed in our report. We did a frequency analysis based on each one of those scenarios, which was explained in our report. We did a consequence analysis, and from those frequency and consequence, it allows us to apply that to the risk matrix. And the results all fell within, they're either a 2D, a 3D, or a 3E. So when you combine the frequency and the consequence, you choose the right matrix, the right box on this matrix, and that's where we fall. So we're in the green area, confirming that pretty low risk. So there was the results of it. So proposed fire protection for the facility. We're kind of winding down here. We got a type 2B building, 1 hour separation from the hangar bay and all the adjacent spaces. All of the columns would be protected per NFPA 409, either spray applied fireproofing or sprinklers on the column to give column protection, which is permitted. We're going to have fire department access. I think our closest structure to the building is like 300 feet away, so we don't have adjacent buildings next to us. All the life safety, we're going to follow the building code and adequate means of egress out of the building, emergency lights, exit signs, all of that normal required stuff. We plan to install a fire alarm system in the building.
Is that required?
No, it is not.
That's above and beyond the code?
We are planning to do that above and beyond.
Okay.
We had not planned any detection in the hangar bay at this time. It's not required. We are doing detection in the office above the fire alarm panel. We'll have horns and strobes. It's my understanding we'll have manual pull stations at the exits, water flow switch. It will be monitored by a constantly attended remote supervising station. What we're proposing for the hangar bay is to have a sprinkler density, which is 0.25 over 2,500. And as you can see, 0.25 is right here at 2,500. So we're between ordinary hazard and the extra hazard sprinkler curves. So we feel that we're conservative. We're requiring a K8 sprinkler, which means it produces larger water droplets. When you're 50 feet in the air, you need a large water droplet to penetrate the fire plume to get to the seat of the fire. So that's what we proposed. We feel we're conservative above what will be required because NFPA 409, Chapter 12, says a density of 0.17. We're doing a density of 0.25. That's a 1/4 gallon a minute per square foot. It's a lot of water. So that's what we're doing in the hangar. In the office area, we're following NFPA, a density of 0.1 over 1,500 square feet. Typical office sprinkler system design. We've run some preliminary calculations, not detailed hydraulic calculations. That will be done by the sprinkler contractor. But our preliminary calculations based on that density, we're going to need 1,250 gallons a minute approximately at about 57 PSI. Now we can make bigger pipe to make the pressure go down. Hopefully we can design the system based upon the available water pressure and not have to use a fire pump. That would be the goal. Fire pump's going to cost us another 50 to 75,000. So if we can do without a fire pump, we would try to do that design without a fire pump.
Do you know what the water pressure is in that area?
Yeah, I think it's real close to that. I think there's a static of like 64. I have not done a hydrant flow test, but I believe there is some data that has been provided and I can't remember it off the top of my head. So, and maybe somebody from the county can answer that question better than I can. So in summary, we're looking to eliminate foam, water-only system, following a risk assessment, new technology process per NFPA 409, 2016 edition, and that's our goal. If there's additional requirements that the board or the county would like us to do, maybe smoke detectors or flame detectors to provide an early warning, we'll entertain that. But the bottom line is we don't want foam because of the environmental impact, the damage to the aircraft, and that's the message we're trying to carry. So we're not doing maintenance. So with that, I open it up to questions. I truly appreciate your time. Thank you very
No,
much.
nice presentation, Jack. Thank you very much. I wrote a list of questions, and as you were presenting, you were answering them. So I have, I might be all over the place, but I have some questions, and Andy, if you have, you can chime in. I want to know if, first off, did the county accept your risk assessment evaluation approach? Are they going to?
I would rather them answer that. I don't
Okay.
think, until yesterday, for an hour and a half or 2 hours, we had not had detailed discussions about it. The building official, Lou, retired in the process. The fire marshal, who's not on the phone, Joe, who was at, I think he had a death in the family, he's attending a funeral.
Okay.
So, he was on the call yesterday. Ray was on the call yesterday. I know Josh was on the call yesterday. They
Okay.
expressed some concerns. And I'll let them answer.
Yeah,
that.
so we take what the local has to say in our decision. So it'll be,
Understood.
the fire marshal, maybe the local fire department chief, if he had an opportunity to look at what you're proposing. Definitely the ASJ, which is Suffolk County, stuff like that. So that was one of my questions. Is there a chance, Courtney, or maybe Jack, is the New York State going to adopt on the next code cycle, this 2022 NFPA?
I would expect they would.
I mean, it's environmentally driven, so I would assume.
I mean, everybody is really pushing. I mean, we're doing the same process for Hangar 10 at JFK for American Airlines. And the Port Authority is kind of at the same thing the county is. Well, who's really in charge? Who makes this decision? Does it have to go to the state fire marshal? Does it come back to Division of Codes and Standards to try to make this decision? And even with maintenance, we're doing the flame detection is what we proposed. We're doing additional fire extinguishers, requiring additional training because the foam is a huge issue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal. So.
Is there a possibility that in the future, the dynamics of the use of the building would change? Different aircraft, the way it's
Signature
utilized?
Answer that, I think it is their understanding, as long as they own it, it will always be used for storage. Chris or Paige or Scott, you want to try to respond to that from an owner's perspective?
I mean, it could be an annual inspection mandated, as a decision. I don't know if the county does that. Do they do? Yeah.
Speak to that either.
Okay.
I guess the question you're really asking is who's going to enforce all the provisions that maintenance not be done?
Moving forward,
and all that? And what would happen if Signature sells the building? Any decisions we make,
Track that with a piece of property.
any decisions we make carry forward to any future owners.
Right. Well, and keep in mind, code requires when you change the use and or occupancy of a building, you got to revisit the code. At that time,
If you're
the
not,
2022 may be in effect, so.
not necessarily ownership, but if you're changing occupancy category.
Correct. Owner and occupancy.
Not
Yeah,
owner, I don't think.
So in this case, guys, the Signature, if they end up leaving or selling or doing something, that this hangar would go back to the county. It's would be airport property. We are on the airport property, and the lease between Signature and the airport, it's technically still the airport's building. So if there's a break of the lease or anything like that, then that would be addressed at that time, I would think.
Okay.
Who designed this building?
The designer was Hanson Design Group. They're out of Orlando.
Is that firm authorized to practice in engineering in New York State or
Yes,
architect?
they have they
C of
are
A?
authorized. Yep.
Okay.
I have a question. Is this assessment for group two?
No, it's for group one.
That's a group one.
Yeah, because we are a group one hangar. The airplanes are
Exactly.
kind of like a group two airplane, but that's not how 409 defines it. A group one hangar is based upon door height
Yes.
greater than 28 feet and area greater than 40 feet. And we are that, and we are a group one. So if we were a group two and we're only storing, the code says you don't need foam, period.
If you put a firewall down between both areas, both storage areas, would that change any of the code dynamics? Would that affect?
We could shorten the door height, but yeah, that would, if it was a 2-hour firewall,
Yeah,
it would classify separate individual fire areas. And the code says if your fire area is greater than 40,000, then you're a group one. So then we could say, hey, we're gonna build a 2-hour firewall, separate it. Then the only variance we're looking for is the door height variance to get the larger plane in.
Yeah,
and why isn't that
Why
being
is it?
proposed?
I have a question here. Why?
Well, because then you gotta get a variance for the door and it's costing you a 2-hour firewall, and building a 2-hour firewall 50 feet in the air, freestanding, structurally independent, is pretty challenging. So, and it's probably gonna affect their operations. They may wanna, instead of having 2 big aircraft in, they might wanna have 15 little Cessna 172s in there. So it gives them more ability of how they use it. So,
It gives us flexibility for various aircraft and location to store within the hangars.
So it's an $18 million structure. Do we know what the cost of the firewall would be? I mean, is it a financial decision or is it more about a flexibility?
I don't know that it was even discussed.
Okay, because it just seems like a natural thing to do if, you know,
Especially with this line on the drawing.
Yeah.
and you have
So that there is 2 separate areas to park.
yeah, and you have you said a 1 hour between the occupied.
Any of the other support, office,
The
terminal.
accessory uses.
Yep, is 1 hour, which is required by 4.
So what are you proposing above the minimum requirements of the code? You're proposing this fire alarm system?
A greater sprinkler density, and then follow all of the other 409 requirements.
Just to go back to what I said before, has there been any fire official input or anything like that? We've done in the past where we had letters that we had submitted as exhibits that they're in favor of this variance.
Nothing other than the call yesterday.
Okay,
Believe I got an email from fire marshal in support of the variance, but it's not in your package.
no, I don't think so. Let me take another look.
I'll ask.
While you folks are looking, my name's Ray Muxo, Suffolk County Department of Public Works. The fire marshal was part of the conversation yesterday, and I think, again, he's heading to California for a death in the family. He is on board fundamentally with the idea. I think his major concern was that we comply with one of the 409s. Either the 22 or the 16, as Jack had mentioned before. There was a little confusion, and based on the data that when the report was written and how it kind of moved a little bit in that they were not going to be using the 22 and now they're using the 16. If that's the case, that's all well and good. So that was his main concern. The few things to what Jack said, I'd just like to clarify. There's a statement in the hangar that a fire alarm system is not required. It may not be required by code, but there are administrative requirements in the county that require fire alarm systems. However, smoke detectors are ineffective above 30 feet. Therefore, in a hangar, it would not, any fire detection in a hangar would not be warranted. It is in the building area, like the terminal and the office area, they are there, but not so much in the hangar. As far as using fire pumps, the design that we currently have in front of us actually contains 2 fire pumps. So this is the first that the fire pump even came up. So this all originated, as Jack mentioned, about a year ago, where we had some discussions and the proposed variance was going to come into you. But the design that we have before us, again, does have that 1 hour wall. There's a 1 hour wall in between the two hangars right now on that drawing. It's a 1 hour wall per hour drawings and 2 fire pumps. So we're a little bit, because of the variance and what the potential outcome of the variance was, we weren't quite sure how this was going to move around a little bit and how it was going to change. Signature has already committed that whatever the outcome of this is, revised drawings will follow. But I just wanted to, kind of make it clear where we are, where the county is from its perspective here as well. Further to what Jack had said, and this is my last item here, was that there is a report from Suffolk County Water Authority that they did measure some static, and it's on the drawings, as a matter of fact, by HDG, that the static pressure they measured at the point was 64 psi with a residual, what do they call this? Yeah, residual pressure of about 36 psi. So there was in that same letter from Suffolk County Water, as Jack also mentioned, the potential for it to dip below the 57 psi that he referenced in this. And I think he was talking about maybe using a larger pipe. That will all figure out. Okay, that's not an issue. I guess since I've kind of hogged the microphone here for the moment,
Okay.
from the county's perspective, as I said, we're fundamentally on board with this. If the state grants the use of this, however, the petition was for using the new technologies. And now in going to a Group 1 wet system, there are no provisions in NFPA 16 for a Group 1 wet only system. Those provisions are in NFPA 40922 under paragraph 824. So we would need some guidance or a condition or something put in here to provide the AHJ and the engineers, of course, with the design criteria for a wet only system, should you so grant that. Josh, did I kind of catch that? And Afreen, did I kind of catch that right? I think so.
I think I understand.
Just a little clarification. Chapter 12 of the 2016 edition does talk about a wet pipe sprinkler system design, and that is for primarily unfueled aircraft. So the standard says if you got a Group 1 hangar and you are defueling it, i.e. we're not going to have a fuel spill is what they're thinking, then you only need a wet pipe sprinkler system per Chapter 12, and that's the density of 0.17 over 5,000 square feet. So Chapter 12 does talk about it, but it is for defueled aircraft, which is kind of along the same line of what we're trying to say. Because of the no maintenance, we're not going to have a fuel spill. So just because it's got fuel in it, we're saying it's not going to get on the floor, versus the other one is saying, hey, you have to defuel it because you're doing maintenance and there's a chance of having a spill. So it's kind of different, yet it's kind of the same.
So on your
If you're not defueling,
We're not.
then that chapter does not apply.
Correct.
So you'd have to then revert to the 22 edition
No.
to get a chapter
You
that
go
doesn't
back to
apply?
Chapter 8 for Group 1 hangars,
Oh.
or 6, Chapter 6, I believe it is. Go to, and it gives you
In the 2016.
deluge foam system. There's 3 options, and all of them include foam.
All right, so what Raymond said,
Is correct.
in your presentation, you had said the new technology was the risk assessment evaluation, but there also is the design standards to design this wet system, which is in the 2016.
NFPA 13, so we're following the sprinkler standard, and we have come up with a design criteria of 0.25 over 2,500 per NFPA 13, 2016 edition, which was those curves on those 2 slides I showed you.
Now, if you went to the 409, NFPA 409, the 22 edition, what do they say what are their standards?
It's no change. It does not have a way to do a wet pipe sprinkler system for a
Doesn't.
fueled aircraft.
Okay, so it reverts back to NFPA 13.
And that's why it exclusively references the 2022 to do a risk assessment, to evaluate the risk and set the fire protection criteria, like what we've done, commensurate with the hazard.
Okay.
Could I just get that fire marshal's name you guys spoke to?
Joseph Keithen, K-U-E-T-H-E-N, Keithen.
Thank you.
I would, I was a little confused by that last, what Jack just said. Jack, could you repeat that, please? Because, I mean, could you please repeat what you said? I'm a little unsure.
To my knowledge, Ray, the 2022 edition does not have a wet pipe sprinkler design criteria for a Group 1 aircraft hangar that has fuel in it.
Paragraph 824 of the code.
But that is the design criteria of the wet pipe sprinkler system at the ceiling plus foam, low-level foam fire suppression system, if I understand correctly. That's how it was intended.
Well, you're right, and which actually exacerbates the circumstance a little more, because the wet system, which is in 8.2.4, is to be used in combination with the ignitable liquid drainage floor assembly. So if the floor assembly is no longer used, then I'm not quite sure that the criteria under 824 still applies to maintain that same level of protection.
Well, I think what Jack is saying is because it doesn't apply, then the risk assessment has set a criteria.
Well, if what the county's looking for is the criteria, and I'm not, wherever it comes from and whatever satisfies everybody here, then that works for us. But it was a little unclear to us. We weren't sure about it. So if the condition is that the fire protection engineer establishes the criteria based on, engineering judgment, past experience, et cetera, and whatever, then that's fine. Just that's not, we're taking exception to 2016, the 4916 in doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I, as the fire protection engineer.
Yeah. I mean, it's consistent with the code, the way the code is set up, if it's not in the code. Thanks, Raymond.
Thank you.
Mr. Rich, you have any questions? I know you've been quiet.
It's hard to speak. Fire department, have they been involved?
We talked about that briefly. I think just there was a conversation yesterday, but there's nothing in writing, right?
It was
So
only
what
the
does it
fire
take?
marshal, not the fire department, to my knowledge.
I would believe the fire department should weigh in.
No, I believe a code official questionnaire was sent to me. And I've asked CJ to go and get it.
Okay.
Is Joe part of the fire department or is the fire department separate? I
The
can't.
fire department is a local fire department. Joe would be the county, sorry to step on you, Courtney, would be the county fire marshal.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
This wasn't from Joe, this was from the code official, Susan.
Suzanne Boykin, yes.
Yes.
That's who I'm representing here.
Right. So Susan sent code enforcement code official questionnaire.
Your mic.
Yes.
Yeah, so she'll go and get it.
Okay.
Lola will send it,
Okay.
but you can look at it here.
So Rich, your concern is you want them to be able to review the application and weigh in on whether or not it's something they're okay with, and there's no other alternative means to fight a fire if there was one, stuff like that. Yeah.
And so what about the fire alarm system? You're gonna put in full fire alarm system in the building? Okay.
He can hear you if you could.
Yes.
You can speak.
That is the plan. That's my understanding. We would do a fire alarm system, we would monitor the water flow switch, we would have smoke detector above the fire alarm panel, we would have horns and strobes throughout the building for notification. I'm not designing this system currently. I think it's being done by the project engineer, but I'm happy to be involved. So I'm just kind of speaking for them, but that's my understanding. Chris or anybody else from the design side, if you want to chime in, validate my comment, I welcome that.
Yeah, Jack, you're 100% correct. We have all the alarm systems in our current design.
Plus early warning, correct? Just not for the sprinkler system?
Correct. We have early warning as well. Yep.
So, if this is the path to approval, there would probably be some conditions in there that, the reviewing agency would need to sign off, and any special requirements that they may have above and beyond would need to be met with the reviewing agency, so.
I
Okay.
don't think there's any issues there. We
Okay.
understand that.
Pretty comprehensive submission. We appreciate that. I hit all my bullet points. I don't know if I have any other
I don't have anything
questions.
else.
You don't have a number on that ignitable liquid storage floor drainage system, right? You said 3 times, I think you said 3 times.
That's the estimates that have been coming back.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could you clarify if a wall is going to go up between the 2 hangars, or it's just gonna be a line in the sand?
Well, we had asked, what would change in the code if that was provided? I think they came back and said that they would prefer not to have it for flexibility. I
Scott or Susan, what's actually shown on the, or page, Paige or Scott or Chris, is the plan to build a wall?
Yeah,
separating
there'll
the
be a wall between both hangars due to Signature's capability to have different tenants. So one tenant would want their own hangar. They don't want to share with anybody else, all the open space. So that's the intent.
So 1 hour?
So there will be a wall. So
Yeah, there's a wall. There's a wall in between in the hangars. There's
It's
2
not a
doors.
2-hour.
If you're putting a wall up, it shouldn't be a big deal to have a 2-hour fire rated wall, whether it's a
Yeah.
firewall where there's independent collapse and stuff like that, I think it'll be a fire barrier wall, yeah. So if that's not an unreasonable request, I'd like to,
Yes.
put
Well,
that out
that
there.
Yeah, we can look at
changes
that.
then the a variance request.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know that it changes the request, it may change the
Well,
requirement.
The requirement,
Change the
yes.
code section?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it changes anything.
Okay.
It's not a 2-hour wall.
Well,
Yeah, but-
Separating the 2 separate fires.
But if it is, if we,
It is a 2-hour wall.
if it is a 2-hour wall,
it's
then
below the 40,000.
One at a time.
if we don't approve the variance request and approve a variance request for the height of the door, then a 2-hour wall would be required.
2-hour firewall.
Firewall.
Yeah, which is different than just a 2-hour rated.
Well, that's true.
And the 2016 edition of 409 does not have the stipulation for group 2 hangars that are storage only using deep foam. That was added in 2022.
I knew you had to complicate that. Leave it to the engineers.
I always try to complicate everything.
You're an engineer too.
Yeah.
All right, so I have a CEO questionnaire here, from Suzanne Boykin. Digitally signed, stating that, and number 10, supports the petitioner's request for a variance, yes. You believe this petition should be heard by this board, yes. Have any actions been taken relevant to the request of variance? No. Do you support processing the request as a routine? Yes, okay. What are they doing here?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Not
Good.
processing.
Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Lola.
I did send you by email, another CEO variance questionnaire from, Mr. Kuethen. If you like a hard copy, if you can ask, CJ to come back up, down.
My tablet is not on Wi-Fi, so I have to check on my phone. I have it?
Also, Mr. Chairman, the code official has indicated that the building is classified as an A3S1B occupancy mixed use. It would be an
A3?
Yeah, it would be an A only if they have occupant load in excess of 50.
50, yeah.
So I'm not sure whether.
Where would
they
that
plan.
be? Is there a large conference room or something?
I don't know. I don't know. You've said that it's a B and S1. So my
5,500?
question is, do they plan on having more than 50 persons in an area?
Well, even if it's a large office space, like a terminal or office space, it's still a group B and you divide by 100 square foot per person. And it's not over it is 5,600 square feet, I think is the term.
Someone would need to do an occupancy calculation.
Once again, I don't know that the place is designed as an assembly occupant.
But
It's,
yes, I'm sorry, it might be the terminal, the waiting area.
The waiting area.
That's an assembly.
Right.
I'm double checking.
So the question is.
but it's not a normal, it's called terminal. It's
Right,
not
right.
like-
It's a matter of semantics, but if
Sounds like it's basically an office area.
If- if there's a space, a waiting area for more than 50 people, or where more than 50 people are going to be, then the A classification would be appropriate. So my question is, does the waiting area accommodate more than 50 persons? It's a simple question. Yes or no?
Sounds
Anybody
like
can
a
answer.
political debate. Simple question, yes or no? Well,
Who's designing the terminal aspect? I don't expect Mr. Poole to know this.
Our architect, HDG, same one that did the hangars.
Do you have accommodation for more than 50 persons in the terminal?
I'd have to look. I can't answer that. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't want to say something wrong.
Just as a matter of clarification, the information Ms. Boykin provided was taken directly off the code review sheet from the consultant that said A3, S1, and B. So that's why that was presented as such.
Okay. So you will include that.
does that change any of the variants?
It just changes that it's a mixed occupancy of S1, B, A.
Oh, okay, but doesn't change any of the, okay.
No.
No. The hangar area is the S1 occupancy.
Yeah.
Where's the CEO questionnaire? Is it embedded in here? They wanted me to read that into.
The new one that she just.
Oh, Lola said she sent an email,
This one I will show.
said application.
This one.
So we had one from
I've written
from the fire marshal, Joseph
Ethan, yes.
Keeson, yeah. So we had number 10, do you support the petitioner's request for a variance? Yes. Do you believe this petition should be heard by the Board of Review? Yes. Have any actions been taken relevant to this request for a variance? No. Do you support processing this request as a routine variance? Yes. 412.3.6 fire suppression. Okay, thank you. All right, so we're clear on what's going on and what we need to do? Mr. Rich?
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions? Board members? All right, we're gonna go arm wrestle this and get back to you guys with a decision. All right. Thank you, everybody. Hang tight. We're gonna go deliberate.
Come back in.
No.
You're present.
That's kind of what I thought, but.
Yeah. Just get your notes out, I guess. I'm just gonna read everything into the record. Are you ready? Okay, we're back on the record. Excuse me. With respect to petition number 2024-0382, Signature Flight Support LLC. Petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR, Part 1221, the 2020 Building Code of New York State, Section 412.3.6. The board makes the following findings. Number one, the building that is the subject of this determination will be located southwest of runway 15-33 on premises known as Francis S. Gabreski Airport. Number two, approximately 9,900 square feet of the building will be used for small shops and as a passenger boarding terminal. Over 85% of the building will shelter 2 airplane storage hangars that are each approximately 31,250 square feet in area. Number three, section 412.3.6 and table 412.3.6 of the 2020 Building Code of New York State requires that hangars of type 2B construction with a fire area in excess of 40,001 square feet be classified as Group 1 hangars per the 2016 edition of NFPA 409, Standard on Aircraft Hangars. Number four, section 8.1.1 of the NFPA 409-16 is the Uniform Codes Reference Standard. This standard requires Group 1 hangars to have foam-based fire suppression in addition to a water-based sprinkler system and makes no allowance for a risk fire assessment. Number five, the 2022 edition of the NFPA 409 permits a fire risk assessment and evaluation to be made. If the recommendations of this assessment suggest alternatives to a foam-based system, it may be eliminated. Number six, the applicant wishes to construct a proposed hangar in accordance with the allowance of section 8.1.1.1 of the 2022 edition of NFPA 409. This section allows alternatives to the foam-based and other fire protection requirements in section 8.1.1 where a risk assessment as outlined in chapter 4 identifies an alternative means of protection as acceptable. That sound okay, Courtney?
Yeah.
Number seven, an NFPA 409 chapter 4 risk assessment includes consideration of at least 21 factors and is required to be approved by the authority having jurisdiction. Number eight, foam-based systems contains PFAS, which have been classified as environmental contaminants. Some states have restricted use of foam-based systems and in some cases required that they be placed by more environmentally friendly fire mitigating alternatives. There's a gnat flying around here. He's annoying me. So,
But he's annoyed,
bear with
you,
me.
not me.
Number nine, an alternative to foam-based systems is an ignitable liquid floor drainage system. Such systems are expensive in maintenance.
Intensive.
And maintenance, and I have that omission. Let me start that over again. Number nine, an alternative to foam-based systems is an ignitable liquid floor drainage system. Such systems are expensive and maintenance intensive, and the petitioner considers this to be a cost prohibitive alternative. Number 10, a fire risk assessment of the proposed facility has been performed by fire protection engineers. The recommendations therein include the following. A, lightning protection. B, prohibiting fueling, welding, hot work, or aircraft maintenance operations within the hangar. C, storage of flammable and combustible liquids in flammable liquid containers. D, the installation of a monitored fire alarm system. And E, the installation of an NFPA 13 fire sprinkler system with a density in hangars of 0.25 GPM per square foot. 11, the petitioner has stated in testimony that the local fire department was approximately 1.5 miles away, and response time to the facility is estimated at approximately 5 minutes. So, with respect to 19 NYCRR Part 1221, the 2020 Building Code of New York State, Section 412.3.6, the board finds strict compliance with the provisions to the Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code would entail practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship and would not achieve the code's intended objective and would inhibit achievement of some other important policy. And the granting of this variance will not substantially adversely affect the Uniform's code's provisions for health, safety, and security. So wherefore it is determined that the application for a variance from the provisions of 19 NYCRR Part 1221, the 2020 Building Code of New York State, Section 412.3.6, is hereby proposed to be granted with the following conditions. Condition number 1, that a water-based NFPA 13 sprinkler system shall be installed throughout the subject building with a 0.25 GPM per square foot density in the hangar areas. Number 2, that a full NFPA 72 fire alarm and smoke detection system with central station monitoring shall be installed throughout the building as approved by the authority having jurisdiction. Number 3, that the fire risk assessment shall be reviewed and shall be deemed acceptable by the local authority having jurisdiction. Number 4, that all the safety recommendations contained in the fire risk assessment shall be implemented. This includes, but is not limited to, the need for storage of flammable and combustible liquids in suitable containers, lightning protection, and prohibiting fueling, welding, hot work, and aircraft maintenance. Number 5, that a 2-hour fire barrier wall shall be constructed between the 2 hangars and separating the hangars and the remainder of the building. Number 6, that the chief of department for the local fire department shall review the application and issue a letter to the AHJ, authority having jurisdiction, stating that the fire department is aware of the life safety systems being proposed for the subject project. And lastly, number 7, that written fire protection housekeeping protocols shall be established for the hangar. These housekeeping protocols shall incorporate the safety recommendations of the fire assessment report and shall be posted in the hangar spaces. You need a motion to approve with these conditions?
Andy, so moved.
Can I get a second?
I second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Furthermore, motion is approved with these conditions. Furthermore, it should be noted that the decision of this board is limited to the specific building and application before it as contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans or specifications presented in support of this application. So there you go. We had 7 conditions. Any questions?
Yes. The density of, number 1, says a density of 0.25. Are you agreeing with my remote area of 2,500 square feet?
That was the other number that we were talking about.
It's missing the area.
The
Part of the
2,500.
design is density and area.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's a density of 25 over 2,500 square feet.
Thank you for that. So I'm going to read the
Wouldn't
condition.
that-
number.
Oh, okay, yeah, because that limits the flow.
Yeah.
Right.
So condition number 1 will be revised as such, that a water-based NFPA 13 sprinkler system shall be installed throughout the subject building with a 0.25 GPM over 2,500 square foot density in hangar areas. Does that make sense?
Yep. Okay. Question number 2 I have. Your item number 2 says full smoke detection.
Fire alarm and smoke detection.
So does that mean you want smoke detectors in a hangar that's
No.
50 feet tall?
No. We, it's acknowledged, it wasn't, well, smoke detectors in the hangar wouldn't do anything, so. We also say as approved by the AHJ, so.
So we'll work with
Yeah,
them.
work with them
Find out
to,
what they want.
yeah.
Yep, that makes sense. Number 5 was a 2-hour fire barrier, not a fire wall.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And what's driving that? That was not part of our request, and
Yeah.
I don't know how the owner feels about that, to be honest with you.
Well, you're putting the wall up anyway, so we were asking for a 2-hour. That was part of our approval. And also between the terminal area, the rest of the building and the hangar. So there's two situations where the walls need to be fire rated.
We'll do,
Separating the office is already there.
Waiting room, yeah.
But I.
That was a 1-hour presented at the hearing.
And you
Yeah.
want it to be.
Yep.
Yep.
2 dividing hangars, 2 separating the balance of the building.
So is any signature people on the call? Or Chris on the call?
Any questions on the conditions? I mean, there are,
I mean, basically.
they are the conditions.
I think we're good with the conditions. We'll comply with the rated wall you guys want on the terminal and the hangar.
All right, that concludes the
Yeah.
hearing. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yep.
Good luck with your project.
I'll visit.
Sounds like you're starting up real soon.
Well, we have a while.
You said like
Site work.
site work, okay.
We'll visit when we have a Cessna.
Yeah.
I have to take you off record.
I said off the record, yeah.
All right.
Okay. So we're going to read it into the record, then I'll give you the mic, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, this is the third hearing, right? Third hearing is in the matter of petition number 2024-0243. The petitioner is Salim Abraham for Van Loo. Got the wrong. Bear with me, please. This petition pertains to a variance for a detached dwelling, construction type. Is it 3B? What, two stories in height, approximately 2,275 square feet in total gross floor area, located at 125 South Clinton Avenue, Bay Shore, Town of Islip, County of Suffolk, State of New York. Petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1221, the 2020 Residential Code of New York State, Section AJ 803.2, flood hazard areas, which states additions and foundations in flood hazard areas shall comply with the following requirements. One, for horizontal additions that are structurally interconnected to the existing building. 1.1, if the addition and all other proposed work when combined constitute substantial improvement, the existing building and the addition shall comply with section R322 of this code. 1.2, if the addition constitutes substantial improvement, the existing building and the addition shall comply with section R322.2. Number 2, for horizontal additions that are not structurally interconnected, the existing building. 2.1, I'm not sure how this reads. The addition shall comply with section R322.2.2 if the addition and all other proposed work when combined constitutes substantial improvement, the existing building and addition shall comply with R322. And number 3, for vertical additions and all other proposed work that when combined constitutes substantial improvement, the existing building should comply with R322 as well. Number 4, for a new replacement, raised or extended foundation, if the foundation work and all other proposed work when combined constitutes substantial improvement, the existing building should comply with section R322. Petitioner requests approval to maintain additions and alterations that are located below the design flood elevation. I believe that's the matter in front of us today. Okay, Mr. Abraham, you have the mic.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. This project started in 2018. And when we started the project, the first thing we did is to make an assessment of the structure. And the plan reflect all the repairs to be able to achieve that process. If you look at the drawing provided to you and also the pictures of this condition of the dwelling, the previous owner the original owner of the house did a lot of illegal addition to the dwelling. And what we try to do is to bring back the house to the original state, meaning that the front porch will be demolished and rebuilt, and all the back excess toward the garage will be completely removed to comply with the approval for the ZBA that we got in 2020, I believe so. So the goal here is to basically to rehab the structure, replace all the damaged members, the wood members, and the partial part of the foundation that was affected over the years, and basically, rehab the building. The reason that we are here today because the owner went through a process of a stock work order, and the assessment of it was the two dormers towards the roof area that was created without a permit. And we did address this structure with new LVL headers and framing requirements to comply with the code. And also, after doing all this, we present to the town Islip assessment report that the cost of the rehab after several attempts will be less than the 50% required of it, and everything was given to Town Islip. And I believe there was 2 assessments done, and one came out saying that okay, the house, the work that will be done to the house will not be over that requirement. And also, the present owner, Mr. Van Loo, has his own contracting business, so that will be able to lower the cost of material and labor to be able to achieve that process.
Mr. Abraham, where
as
is
you-
that
yeah.
information? Where's that data? It's not part of our application. You had just mentioned you had submitted it to the town of Islip. I don't see it in part of this package, so critical to the decision today is to understand what these alteration costs are in comparison to the appraised value of the house. Do you have any of
Okay.
that information for us today?
I
Can you
was
share it on the
not,
screen?
let me see.
I'd like to get those figures on the record.
Okay, let me see. Exhibit content. Second. Let's see.
Are you trying to share your screen?
No, because I don't have access to that screen. I don't have access to the screen. I'm using my my phone,
Okay.
and so those things I have it in front of me to be able to email to you for the cost of the.
Is the board okay with a verbal, or would you prefer a document, like a cost construction estimate from the contractor?
There should be an appraisal and cost estimate of construction. That should be all submitted, along with, I'm not seeing an elevation certificate here either.
Okay, because we just submit what we were set to submit to for the variance, but we do have those
Well, yeah.
information.
I mean, all of that information needs to be considered by us in order to grant a variance.
Okay. So. Yeah. So I can move forward with this. Do I have to email to you or drop it off to the office and reschedule, or how does it work?
Is there anything else we need? What is the flood elevation here?
Drawings say, what is it, AE with an elevation 1.4?
All right, because we go in at 2 feet above the grade, 2.2 feet above the grade.
What is the flood elevation, the FEMA flood elevation?
So we'll need that. We'll need the, the FEMA, the elevation certificate. We need to understand, the magnitude of any new work and where the floodplain is in relationship to that. What's being physically proposed now, what's a maintain. Like it was done, like you said, the prior owner did some work without permits. If that's an addition. I mean, did you do the drawings?
Yes, I did. Yes, I have the drawing I submitted to you. Yes.
I'm an architect. You did a nice job on the drawings.
Thank you, sir.
I just think we need to have all the information.
Okay.
To be able to understand, all the facts to render a decision. So, we talked about an appraisal value. You said the owner's a contractor?
Correct, yes, he is.
So he should put together his construction costs that reflect the work that's demonstrated on the drawings, how much that would cost. As comprehensive as possible, so you can show what's already been built, what he's proposing to be built, first floor work, electrical, structural, anything, you just put together a cost with a number, and that needs to be referenced off the appraised value. An elevation certificate, which is typically provided by a licensed land surveyor.
Yeah.
Or a New York State licensed design professional. Some more FEMA information.
I do apologize
Anything
because.
else?
Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
No, I do apologize. We do have all those information, but I was not aware to send as a package because we submit everything to the town. So I do apologize. So we can do it right away for you guys. So you provide them as well as possible. We do have all the requirement that you want to the certificate, the appraisal, the cost of the work to prove that the house is you'll be less than 50%, and that was provided to the town also. But so we can get it back to you as soon as possible.
Okay, and I was asking if anybody else on the board has anything else they want to add to make sure he comes back and has a good chance of success.
Did the plan show where the mechanical and electrical equipment are?
Yes, to the back. Page A5, number 2, to the back of the house. Little bump out.
8.05?
Um, no,
8.05 or 5?
sorry, let me see. Sorry, page page A.08. Sorry, and number 2. Sorry.
Okay.
The boiler and the hardwood door, because it used to be in the basement, the cellar area, so that would be removed on that level.
Okay. And the electrical panel is up there too?
Yes, there will be the mechanical area. The boiler and the hot water heater also gonna be there.
All right, yeah, we will need all that information. So, on that basis, I'll make a motion that we adjourn, and pending receipt of the requested information.
Okay, may I get a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Rich, second. All in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye. We're clear, right? Salim, on what you need
Yes,
to do?
we are.
Okay.
We are.
Okay, if you have any other further questions or anything, you can give CJ a call at the regional office or Lola, and, you know, they'll help you through it, and hopefully you're on next month. Okay?
Thank you very much. I
Okay.
do apologize for this inconvenience. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful, thank you.
Sure, bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day. Be safe.
All right, we got next in the queue, Mr. DiGiamo, Matthew DiGiamo. 0360 RDL Holdings.
Yes, Chris Taglich here for Matt.
Chris Taglich, is that you?
Yeah, Taglich.
Go with who?
With Matt DiGiamo.
Oh, you're the architect. Okay, great. Anybody else with you today on this matter?
Just us two.
Okay, us two. Who's the other person?
Just me and Matt.
Oh, Matt's on as well. Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay.
How are you? Sorry about that.
No, no problem. No problem. Just want to make sure someone's here. Okay, this is,
Use the video or you?
right on Memorial Highway. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Hi, Lola.
Hi. I just want you to know that I only have the one hard copy, at 11 by 17. If you want the larger ones, I'll come up and hand it to you, but they are the larger architectural drawings.
I would defer to Andrew on that.
And no, Andy, yes, Andy, I gave him I believe he has maybe the 11 by 17 there.
All right, so I think that'll do it. I use my tablet, so are you okay with that, Laura? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Oh, Max.
All right, you guys ready? Okay, we're going on the record.
Okay. Hello, my name is Chris Taglich.
No, hold on. I gotta read it into the record, then I'll give you the mic.
Okay.
All right, we gotta do some housekeeping first, and then I'll give it to you. CJ, you ready? Okay. All right, this fourth and final hearing is in the matter of petition number 2024-0360. The petitioner is Matthew DiGiamo for RDL Holdings LLC. This petition pertains to a project that will have Quad A healthcare accreditation and not considered an ambulatory care facility. The facility is of construction of type, you have 3B again. Is it 3B or 2B?
3B.
3B? Okay, 3B, one story above basement and approximately 15,583 square feet in total gross floor area. Located at 3480 Veterans Memorial Highway, Bohemia, County of Suffolk, State of New York. Petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1220, the 2020 Building Code of New York State, Section 422, providing the following. Occupancies classified as ambulatory care facilities shall comply with the provisions of Section 422.1 through 422.6 and other applicable provisions of this code. Town of Islip considers this project as an ambulatory care facility where portions are used to provide medical, surgical, psychiatric, or nursing or similar care on less than a 24-hour basis to persons who are rendered incapable of self-preservation by the services provided or staff has accepted responsibility for care recipients already incapable. Petitioner requests, I'm not sure if it's a variance or an appeal to deviate from the considered ambulatory care facility designation. So you guys have the mic and we'll see about that.
Sorry, Chairman, it's 2B.
It is 2B. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So my
Thank
name is
you.
Chris Taglage. I'm the architect from the DeJama Group regarding the Orland and Cohen Pain Management Facility at 3480 Veterans Memorial Highway. We are requesting this meeting because the authority having jurisdiction is considering this project an ambulatory care facility, code section 422. The definition states buildings or portions thereof used to provide medical, surgical, psychiatric, nursing, or similar care on a less than 24-hour basis to perform who are rendered incapable of self-preservation by the services provided to staff and has accepted responsibility for the care recipients already incapable. We are seeking relief from the ambulatory care definition because the procedures performed will not render recipients incapable and are holding us to a standard that is higher than necessary for this type of center. The facility is being approved under Quad A accreditation for outpatient programs in office type settings. Quad A is the accepted accreditation organization within the New York State, and the accreditation organization specifically allows for these type of procedures to be created in an office setting to allow for greater access to healthcare while ensuring safety. This is the same organization that accredits oral surgeries, as those types of facilities typically do not meet ambulatory regulations and are performed in an office setting. The procedures that will take place are approximately 3 to 8 minutes at most and are not performed under general anesthesia. Patients will undergo moderate sedation, also known as the Twilight method, where they can communicate with the physician during the procedure if needed. The scope of work includes demolition of the existing 5,000 square foot space within the roughly 15,500 square foot building and the interior build out of the ONC Pain Management Suite. The building is a 1-story stucco glass building, class 3B rated, and will have a proposed 35 occupants. The work will include new interior partitions, HVAC ductwork, electrical, plumbing, finishes, equipment, and furniture. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
All right, thank you for that.
What type of procedures are being performed? Will be performed?
So just minor pain management procedures.
Can you be a little more specific on that, or?
Yeah.
Yes, Courtney, they basically, if you have like a lower back issue or neck issue, you go into to get this procedure. It's about an hour, maybe 40 minutes long. They'll inject you with like cortisone shots and steroids.
I'm familiar with that.
Makes two of us.
So what are the code implications if this was designated an ambulatory care facility?
So we would currently have to adhere to corridor width at 72 inches. Separation of spaces. We would need sprinkler, designated refugee area, and there's a couple others.
Okay, so you don't, on any of those aspects, you don't demonstrate compliance with those, right?
Yeah, we can't fit that in the space. And
so the building is not sprinklered. Your corridors aren't wide enough to comply. How about the separation between the other tenancies? Is that?
Yeah, so we have the 1 hour separation.
Yes.
1 hour separation. And I think you mentioned you had 35 occupants? So you only need one exit, or do you have two?
We have multiple at this facility, but we do have two near the fluoroscopy area.
And we and it is a fire alarm in the building.
Okay. So I just want to be clear on the exiting. So you have two code compliant exits or just the one?
Two.
Two, yeah.
And you only need one? Is that correct? Because you're under 50.
Correct.
Right, so you're above and beyond the code with regards to exiting?
Yes.
Is the remoteness addressed? Because I can't see in the plan where the other exit is. Is it down?
Yeah, so just outside that fluoroscopy procedure, there's an exit door. It's roughly 12 feet away.
Oh, that's not the main entrance. So the main entrance is in the shaded area and then you come in the hallway. Okay, and that's the entry by the reception. So that would be an exit?
Yes.
Was that a code required exit? Because you're going into,
No, that's just an additional exit that we have.
bear with me, I'm just trying to understand so the whole building is All in Cohen or is it a separate tenant?
All in.
There's,
Oh, I see. There's an adjacent tenant, number one, adjacent number two, number three. But this is an expansion of an existing All in Cohen space?
Yes.
Okay. So if you come in the entrance, you're in All in Cohen's tenancy?
Correct.
It's in the shaded area, and then this expanded area is additional 15,000 square feet of tenancy. Okay. So it's important to note that you have above and beyond the minimum required on code exits or no? You're at the two exits.
We're above because we have three, correct, Chris?
yes, that's correct.
All right, so I might have just misstated. So the 35 occupants are for the addition, the expanded space?
The entire 5,000 square foot suite.
And then the overall All in Cohen tenancy is 15,000 or that's the whole building?
That's the entire building.
Okay. So for the All in Cohen tenancy, you have three exits. And
Yes,
code requires two.
yes.
All right, I just wanted to make that clear. Is this an Article 28 regulated facility?
No.
Is it 28 or 25?
28.
Yeah, it's 20. It's not, and it doesn't need to be, correct?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So I don't know, CJ, Courtney, is this an appeal of the code official's interpretation, or is this an actual variance for how?
It sounds as if there's a disagreement, or are you asking that the code official, are you disagreeing with the code official's designation of an ambulatory care facility, or?
I think that the disagreement is the definition.
Yes, we are disagreeing with that definition of the ambulatory care facility.
Right.
So that's an appeal.
Code official calling it ambulatory care, you are saying it's not?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, ambulatory care states that patients will be incapable, and we're providing patients will be capable of exiting.
Yeah, so that's the intent of the code. If someone's not, is that self-preservation. If someone is not in a position to evacuate the building in a case of an emergency, they need assistance. That's where that designation is. You're saying that that's not the case here. You're doing minor pain management procedures. No one's anesthetized, all that stuff. We don't see that designation applying for this particular application. Is there any way you could demonstrate that because they are somewhat of a franchise, that all the other similar facilities that All in Cohen has is not deemed ambulatory?
Yes, we do have letters from them stating that. We've attached those as, I think, Exhibit 2 and 3.
So just to clarify, I might have jumped ahead. We are viewing this as an appeal of the code official's interpretation.
It would be good if the code official were here to.
Well, I don't think they were.
I don't think.
Can you comment?
Was the code official invited?
Hold on, Rich. I'm sure they were.
They got the notice, right?
They commented, look at the questionnaire.
But we don't know what There.
Oh, yeah, there is a question. They did submit a questionnaire.
That's my
Yeah.
question. Can you comment on number 10, 11, 12, and 13?
Well, obviously, they're disagreeing because they feel their interpretation is correct. That's not surprising.
Is there any criteria by this non-for-profit that does the Quad A designation? Is there any documentation you can provide that strengthens your argument or highlights your argument on a type of care being rendered here and how it doesn't qualify as ambulatory? Is there anything in there besides? No, they quote Quad A.
What, what does Quad A refer to, not being in the healthcare industry?
Yep, Mr. Hames was asking about the Quad A the Quad A designation or accreditation.
What does the Quad A designation mean?
It's just the standards, classifications, and definitions based on minor healthcare like procedures. We have a letter from the tenant regarding that.
Yeah, I see that. Is that sort of like this marketing tool, like these facilities say we're Quad A certified and we're held to higher standards? Is that sort of like an elective thing? It's not like a regulatory agency or anything like that, right? It's like, I don't know, I have a good analogy, like lead certification. People use lead, we're lead because, you know, it's an elective mandate.
That's not elective. You have to,
You don't have to comply with lead.
don't have to comply with it.
Yeah.
But to get that designation, you.
Yeah, you have these mandates.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a good analogy, but I'm just,
So
we're trying to understand.
What things make it Quad A? Let's ask it that way.
Well, it's just an accredited organization that sort of ensures safety with these types of minor office setting procedures.
Accredited by who?
New York State.
Yeah, New York State is really big.
The health department, New York State Health Department?
So if it was an ambulatory care facility, would it not be Quad A?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be Quad A. Ambulatory is more stringent.
So basically, the state has gave you a designation that says you're not ambulatory.
Correct.
Does anybody come here from like ambulance service or wheelchair where they get wheeled in and they get services and go back to the hospital, anything like that? Is it purely just people drive their outpatient facility, get seen by the doctor, get some pain management and leave?
Yeah, that's it. They don't, there's nothing from the hospitals. It's basically just out.
No nursing care facilities, anything like that where somebody might need assistance to get out in an emergency?
It's basically an orthopedic center. You go in, if you break your leg or whatever, they have orthopedics. And then if you have, like we talked about, your knees hurt, they give you shots in the knees or they give you shots in your back. And some of it has to be done in this pain management setting, but it's definitely not anything to do with the hospitals at all. It's all outpatient stuff.
All right, so I'm going to read this letter from Mullen and Cohen into the record. The town of Islip give you a specific reason why they feel it qualifies as ambulatory care? Or they just iron fist, it's ambulatory?
Yeah,
Is there something that might have been interpreted incorrectly, or it might have been a gray area that there's a sticking point there that they're concerned about?
No, they did not give any reason for that.
We believe after reading the code that it definitely was probably more of a gray area, but I think that we established by those letters and by all of the locations that they have, that it's definitely just outpatient, facility.
I'm gonna read that into the record.
Did they provide all this Quad A information to the town?
Yes,
Did you hear me? You did? It's not in this packet.
they did, right, Chris? Everything was submitted to the town, right?
Yes.
Can I ask a question about the term outpatient? I can have surgery in an outpatient facility. And I will not be able to leave without assistance. So, and you say there's a twilight, it's a type of anesthesia that is twilight, what does that mean?
It's like
Yeah,
it's a local anesthetic, right, Chris?
Yeah, so they will not go under. It's just moderate sedation, and they'll be able to communicate with the physician. And they'll be able to get up and leave immediately after.
The surgery centers, and actually we've done those. Those are Article 28. Those are like mini hospitals, and those have a whole different level of accreditation that's required. This is like just pretty much like going to your doctor, your doctor's office, your primary care, but this is orthopedic. That's the specialty of it. And they have these other, some of them even have the physical therapy. They kind of have everything under one roof. So you can go in and get all services as you need them.
Matt, know what happens sometimes? I'm been a code official almost 30 years. Sometimes you look into it, you go to the website, see how they're marketing, and how they're saying they're using something is different. So like even in the bottom of the letter, it says joint replacement, reconstructive surgery. I guess that's in a different location. They do that at the hospital.
Yeah, that's definitely, so again, you'll go and you'll get examined by a doctor, and they'll tell you, we have to replace your knee. Obviously, that gets set up in a hospital. They don't do any of that in the office. The only thing they do in the office is they'll do pain management and they'll do like physical therapy. Those are the two things that they have in-house. Or they'll have an MRI, an X-ray room, those types of things.
Okay, in April 26, 2024, letter to the architect from Susan Wayne, Olin & Co., and AVP of Operations. To whom it may concern, we perform on-site pain management epidural procedures. These procedures take approximately 3 to 8 minutes at most. Epidurals are not performed under general anesthesia. Patients come, communicate with the physician and staff during the procedure if needed. These procedures use MS sedation, moderate sedation, or no sedation. Moderate sedation can be considered as a twilight method of sedation. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact. So that confirms what you guys had presented in testimony earlier. I've been to an Olin Cohen for my back. I know, how the facilities work. Some facilities have a little more services than others, but I completely understand the concept of the use. I think I had one other question.
Did the town issue a written objection?
Did the town, ISLIP issue a written objection?
Yes, they did.
Do you have that available? Can you read it?
So basically, they reviewed and denied our application, and they wanted to revise the construction documents to apply to that section 422, ambulatory care facility.
So they didn't ask for more information on how you plan to use the space?
No, they denied it and moved on.
When was the original space built out? The balance of the space? Right? You have, is that an Olin & Cohen space?
Are we talking about the adjacent spaces in the building?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, some of those are Olin & Cohen, yes. That's where they have the orthopedic exam rooms. And I think that if I remember correctly, in that location, they have some physical therapy.
And how was that viewed? That wasn't ambulatory, correct?
Correct.
So what's triggering this expansion? What's triggering the designation?
I think it's because it's pain management. Is that right, Chris?
Yes, that's correct.
So I'm looking at the suite, the pain management suite has a remote, recovery area with a nurse's station,
Yes,
and the rest is business spaces.
correct. To be honest with you, I'm a little surprised because I've been the architect and the builder. We're a design build firm, so we've done, I don't know, I can't even count how many of these things in Long Island and the boroughs. And this is the first time this is actually coming up.
I have a question. Why is there a recovery area? If it's,
Well, when you get the injections, you can't just like walk out. It's called a recovery area, but you basically just sit there until to make sure, like for 15 minutes, that you're okay.
The mild sedation wears off and
Yeah.
Yeah.
you thumbs up and
Yeah.
you head out.
just saying that might have been the red flag for a code official.
So, did the designer push back on the town's determination or objection and ask why? What is it?
We did actually, and the head architect that works for me, she's out today unfortunately, but she definitely tried discussing it in full detail with them, but they just couldn't seem to get on the same page.
You know, I mean, as an architect in the past, if there was a disagreement, you call either the regional office or you call Albany and you get an interpretation. But I guess that's been overlooked when they come to us for a board of review determination.
Well, they told us that was the only choice we had.
You couldn't have further discourse with them about, you know, their interpretation of, you know, oh, I spoke to the technical division in Albany and they said it's not ambulatory. You think they would throw that out? You know, in the past, I mean, you get assistance to further interpret the code. Sometimes there's code commentary that already has that addressed with more information. But whatever, you're here today, you're in front of the board. It's definitely an appeal. And I don't know if you guys want to talk it out and render a decision.
We can.
I'd like,
Yeah.
if I can, if you don't mind, I just want to I'm calling my architect that works for me, and I want to see if she has any further information that you asked. She dealt with the plan examiner.
We can wait with, you're the last case, so.
Yeah. I actually have on the other line the actual people from Wallen and Cohen also. Hi.
Do you also know who the code official is? Because maybe we could.
Gentlemen and ladies, if you have any, I have.
There's a name on the.
Guys, one at a time. We're on the record.
I'm sorry. I have the Olin and Cohen people on my office phone. If you have questions, I can get answered regarding the letters or the use.
I mean, I think we kind of talked that out. I think maybe the Quad A accreditation criteria, that might be something that if they can add.
Yeah, what was the question on that?
What earns that designation and what designation would be required if it was ambulatory?
Okay, the Quad A, Jane and Susan, what accreditation is that and where are you getting that from? And what would you need to, what accreditation would you need if you were ambulatory? Yeah, so you're not on Article 28. So it's related to being in Article 28, which they're not. And the accreditation of Quad A is what? From where? Through the state, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's an office-based procedural site, not an operating room, not an operating room. That's what that designation is. No general anesthesia.
Yeah, I think you highlighted that in your cover letter.
Okay.
Quad A organizations were created to fill the gap between medical office and surgery centers for minor procedures. So this regulatory agency is the exemption to the rule and ensures that these types of procedures can be performed in non-ambulatory settings safely. So I get it. I get it. I think as an appeal situation, which we don't get many of them, we like to have the code official on the call. So since we don't have that, I think we're going to try and hash this out and come back with a decision. Unless you want to punt it to next month
I
and get
have
the code
the
official.
architect, my architect that works for me on the phone. I just wanted to ask Jessica, I'm on with the Board of Review. When you spoke to the people at the town regarding this ambulatory or not ambulatory, what was their reasoning for this? Why did they give us a hard time on this?
Quad A before and didn't understand.
Okay, all right, let me repeat that. She said that they really didn't understand Quad A and had not heard about what Quad A is before. So she feels that they were just, basically protecting themselves from just asking us to make this application. Did you ask them if there was another level of interpretation that we can get from anyone?
You mean like within the township?
Or the state, yeah.
No, they specifically asked for us to go for a variance to get somebody of a higher order to basically say that this is okay. Because we had sent them multiple, tried to explain to them what Quad A is and what its purpose is.
Okay.
I guess they didn't want to, my word for it, they didn't understand it. They wanted.
What about the letters that we sent them from Orland and Cohen?
I was just going to mention that. Well, Matt, I thought you sent the Quad A qualifications to the town. I thought you argued that. I think you said earlier that you submitted that, or Chris said you submitted that to the town.
Yeah, we submitted all that to the town though, Jessica, and they didn't.
And you couldn't convince them that, it was minor procedures.
Tried to explain it to them several
Okay,
times.
understood.
Okay.
Understood. All right. Thank you. All right, thanks. Yeah, I think the situation was that she did try on many occasions. They sent all of the documentation to them, and they weren't convinced, so they sent us here.
So just to clarify, is Quad A a New York State accredited?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Mr. Rich, you have anything you want to add?
No.
Do you think this is something we could talk out and get to some path of approval, or do we want to punt it and have the code official here next month?
No, I think we can talk it out.
So Andrew's advocating for talking it out and getting it done.
Yeah.
Laura is as well?
Yes. The
How about
code
you?
official wasn't available. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Laura.
I don't want to, I know we're on the record. I just want to shout out and say hello to Rich Pavone and Courtney Nation. Haven't spoken to them in many years. Hope all is well, guys.
That's not going to get you anywhere.
That's fine. I just wanted to say hi.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
We're not done with you yet.
We're staying on? Okay.
Well, you can go, I guess, but we're going to go deliberate and we'll come back with a decision. So if you want to stick around with a decision, or Mr. Chris can hang
I'll
out.
wait. I'll wait.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody else, any other board members have anything, any questions? No? All right, we'll be right back.
That door shut.
Okay.
Pull that door shut, please.
Okay, we're back on the record. Rich, can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. With respect to petition number 2024-0360 RDL Holdings LLC, petitioner is seeking relief from 19 NYCRR Part 1220, 2020 Building Code of New York State, Section 422. The board makes the following findings. Number one, the subject building is 15,583 square feet, one-story type 2B non-combustible building. Number two, the subject project constitutes approximately 5,220 square foot expansion of an existing Orland and Cohen non-ambulatory facility to provide Quad A accredited pain management procedures. Number three, the treatment being provided in the proposed space will entail on-site pain management epidural procedures utilizing no sedation or moderate sedation, taking approximately 3 to 8 minutes. There will be no general anesthesia administered at this location. Number four, the code official has determined that the procedures being proposed for this location shall constitute ambulatory care. Code defines ambulatory care as buildings or portions thereof used to provide medical, surgical, psychiatric, nursing, or similar care on a less than 24-hour basis to persons who are rendered incapable of self-preservation by the services provided, or staff has accepted responsibility for care recipients already incapable. Number five, the town of Islip code official was notified of this hearing but did not attend. Number six, based on the definition in uniform code and as presented by the petitioner in testimony, the board considers the proposed use non-ambulatory. Number seven, the proposed project and intended services do not qualify as ambulatory care, which is redundant to number six. And number eight, due to the testimony presented in the hearing, the board is changing the request for a variance to an appeal of the code official's interpretation of ambulatory care. So, wherefore, it is determined that the code enforcement official's designation of ambulatory care in this instance is overturned on appeal. The use as presented in this application is deemed non-ambulatory. May I get a motion for this approval or this appeal?
So Andy, so moved.
May I get a second?
I second.
Laura, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Rich, I can't hear you.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion is approved. On appeal, furthermore, it should be noted that the decision of this board is limited to the specific building and application before it as contained within the petition and should not be interpreted to give implied approval of any general plans, specifications presented in support of this application. So, any questions, guys?
I guess just what's the next step? Does the town get notified?
You'll get it in writing. You can tell them that the board upheld an appeal on the interpretation of the code and that you'll be getting it in writing.
Okay, that's all I can ask for. And
The board overturned their.
Yeah, we overturned their interpretation.
Okay, I appreciate your time and thank you very much for considering it. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay, be well, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.